Hello everyone, welcome to this week's QA. This will be hosted by myself, Munir Nikyar, and my co-host for today will be Andrew.
Hello everyone. Thanks for getting this started, Munir. I appreciate it. Got a new machine and just getting everything set up. So let me just enable a couple settings. We're gonna rapid fire these questions, get everyone sorted.
Yes, sir.
All right, let me share my screen. What a busy day we have had. Is that not correct? Let me bring this over here to my other screen.
Yes, we have our first question by Dan Gibbs.
All right. When I send a client the iGUIDE link to view it, it always prompts them for a password or a login. Dan, the likely reasoning for that is that the iGUIDE is set as protected. So navigate to your iGUIDE and you'll see under the Edit Default View section, you'll want to click on Edit and you'll scroll down and you'll see a protected mode. It is most likely that this is enabled and it will require a password from them if you want to maintain the protected status. Otherwise, just uncheck the box, scroll down to the very bottom and click Save, and that will resolve the issue. And if you want to do that now, what you could do is uncheck that box, hit Save, send yourself the link, and open the link in an incognito window. So you just right-click on the URL. If you're using Microsoft Edge, open link in a private window. If you're using Google Chrome, open in an incognito window, and it should load for you. So Dan, let us know if that works, and we'll go from there if you're still having any trouble. We got another question from Kevin. Are there any special requirements for creating exterior views of property and stitching them in? Not really. So what I would recommend is when you get on site, generally people are going to start in the front foyer, take all of your interior shots, and then create a new floor and call it exterior. Just while you're on site, it makes it a lot easier to do the alignment this way. So make your new floor, call it exterior shots or outdoor, whatever you like, and start off by taking your panos within about 6 to 9 feet of the actual property. So let's say you go on the outside here, following my cursor. You would take your shots on the outside of this property. And then after you've done, a general perimeter so that you'll actually see the outlines of this property, you can go further back. And it's a lot easier to align it this way. You can start further away. Some people do. But if you want to make the alignment process easier for yourself, just start closer to the property, do a perimeter. And then if there's any unique spots, let's say there's a little river, or perhaps there's a flower bed in the distance that you want to highlight for your client, that's when you'd want to go back and capture those other shots. So when you ask if it's a special requirement, I won't say it's a requirement, but it's advisable that you capture that perimeter before moving further away from the property. How do I add notes for the drafting team to see on my Stitch file? Great question. So let's say you've got Stitch open here. Let's say you've lined your data and your client has specific requests. Let's just remove this. So there's a couple things you can do. First one is you can actually go to your keyboard and press E. That's going to enable the notes option. So you can, after you've pressed E, you can double click on the actual floor plan itself and you can add in text. You can add in any notes you like. So if your client wants a specific room named something unique, you can add the text there and you can add as many of these as you like. If there's an outdoor patio, let's imagine for a moment that this is a little patio area. You can write in patio, please represent, please draft. If there's enough data, our team, generally speaking, can draft it in, but you have to put a note. It's not something that they'll typically include. The other option is to click on the actual project itself. So the project up at the top. My resolution might be too high right now, so it might look a little small here, but it says project comments, new comments, and this is where you will leave your notes. So you'll add in your notes here. You can write an essay. You can do bullet point form. Bullet point notes are probably the best. Just be as specific as you can be. What notes show up on the final floor plan? So none of these notes are going to show up. So all of these notes that you put in here are exclusively for the drafting team. However, if you put text here that says, call this the great room, that label will show up in the final product. However, you can always change that and you can change it however many times you like after it's been published. So any notes that you put here, these will end up, generally speaking, will end up in the final plan or the final product. The notes that you make in this section are going to be just for the drafting team. So take your time with these notes if you have any specific requirements or requests, and just add them here. Like I said, you can write in essay format, or you can do bullet points. I personally would prefer bullet points. I can just go individually, make sure that I've covered all of your requests. And it's probably easier for you to map out everything in just bullet point as well. All right, so I'm just going to circle back to Dan's question regarding the password protected. Went straight to sign in page. So we've confirmed that the protection mode is still enabled. So Dan is asking now, can this be done globally for all projects, or will I need to do that individually? So in your default settings, and I'll open up this here, you can actually go click on settings on your profile. So once you're logged into the portal, click on your name. There's a little drop down, click settings, click iGUIDE defaults, and scroll down. And I might scroll past it, hopefully not. There we go. Uncheck your protected box and scroll down to the very bottom and click save. Doing so will mean that all iGUIDEs moving forward will not be protected. However, any iGUIDEs that you have created thus far must be manually unchecked from the protected option. So the defaults are going to apply to any new iGUIDEs that you create from the time that you've made the changes in your default settings and saved them at the bottom. They will not apply to iGUIDEs that already exist. You'll have to actually go to My iGUIDEs and then manually unprotect each iGUIDE that is currently protected. So hopefully you only have a handful, but that is the way to do it moving forward. If you're set up as a commercial space, so if you've produced a commercial space, it's going to by default put in protected, unless of course you've set up the defaults to be non-protected. If there's any tips or tricks that you'd like Munir and I to share with you while we're on the Q&A?
How about Planetar camera update? Michael Taylor has this question. Planetar camera update. Do you mean the firmware?
Firmware is my guess.
Sorry, specifically the camera. Oh, the 360 update.
Just did it last week, was not simple. Yeah, so we work within the boundaries that are set out by RICO, since it is a RICO theta. But glad that you were able to update the firmware. There's two options. There are two options. You can either connect it directly to your computer or using the app. So if you're on iOS, you can go to the App Store and download the RICO Theta app. It'll ask you for the serial number of the camera. You'll find that on the bottom of the Theta itself. However, you can also connect to Survey, and Survey will have it listed. Let me see if I can pull up.
I shared the link to the 360 Theta update instructions from Theta directly from RICO.
Excellent. That saves me.
That link will help everyone because it has both instructions of updating the firmware, because there's two ways to do it. You can update it using your smartphone or a computer.
Perfect. That saves me blabbing on. That's good. Yep. So when you connect to Survey, you can get your camera serial number. It'll likely say 360 camera serial number. It won't say MS. It'll likely start with, is it YN, Munir, or is it YP? One of those two. And then it'll have a number of digits. You'll also be prompted with
YP.
visuals. YP, okay. And you'll be prompted with visuals on screen through the through that knowledge base article as well. Is there a way in Survey on the iPhone to rotate the scan? I used to be able to see a live view of what the LiDAR sees before the first scan is taken. This allowed me to get bearings of the property, having the front of the property at the top of the survey, then working back. Wasn't an old firmware, but now it's gone. So it's still there. Presumably you're using the Planex. Now, if you're using the IMS5, it will look slightly different than this. This is the only example I have for this Q&A session. On the top right, you'll have these two squares stacked on top of one another. If you click on them, you'll have just the visual. Use the Planex, perfect. So you'll have just the visual. Doesn't seem all that useful if you want to look at the data, however. If you click on it again, you'll have just the data. And if you click it again, you'll have both. Most people are going to use both options so that they can see, what you're looking at and what the data looks like. If If you press it until we have just the laser data. I'm using a mouse, so this doesn't really help all that much. In fact, let me put this in the chat as well, just so that everyone can follow along. You don't need any special passwords for that. You can actually click on a line while you're on site. You can actually move the data around. So you're going to be using 2 fingers to rotate it, kind of like you would a picture on your iPhone. I'm going to be using the right clicker in this instance because that's how we've adapted it for the web browser. But you can actually move the panos, you can rotate them, and you can place them where you believe they belong, and you can snap them into place. This is just an example, so it's obviously not going to do a very good job. And then you can save your settings. Yeah, no problem. You're very welcome. Glad that was a quick resolution for you.
For one room, how many scans should I have to take? And what is the correct distance between every shoot? For one room, it honestly depends on the size of a room, but an average bedroom, I believe 2 scans would be enough. It honestly depends on the size. If it's like a living room, I would say a larger space, 3. Honestly, and also for the distance between every shot, we recommend, I believe, 4 to 5 feet, right, Andrew?
Sounds
Between
about right,
every
yeah.
shot. Yeah, so 4 to 5 feet, as many as you could take in a room. You can't go wrong with taking more data. That's like when in doubt, take another panel is a good rule of thumb. But for smaller bedrooms, 2 is more than enough, and for a bit larger ones, 3 or 4. Another good reminder would be if you have closets, walk-in closets, shower curtains in bathrooms, you want to take extra shots in those areas with those open. Like if you had a closet, take an extra shot with the door open. I know that for virtual tour purposes, you probably don't want what's inside the closets visible, but if you take an extra shot in front of the closet with the door open, we can get that data of where the back wall of the closet is, and you can hide that panel from being visible to your customers. And inside walk-in closets, take an extra shot in there. 1 would be more than enough because walk-in closets are pretty small spaces for the most part. And in bathrooms, that back wall behind a shower curtain will be hidden because of the shower curtain itself. So having an extra scan with the shower curtain open helps us have an accurate scan of what the back wall of that bathroom looks like.
Yeah, and just to reiterate Munir's point, when in doubt, take an extra shot. If you don't think you need it, if you're not sure if you need it, just grab it anyways. It's a lot easier to disable a panel than it is to drive 2 hours back to your property and arrange with your customer or client to get back into the property. So here's an example of a closet that intentionally was not scanned for this purpose. We have the perimeter wall of this area, but we don't know, does the wall end here? Does it end here? So in order to avoid your iGUIDEs being delayed, open the door, take a shot, close the door, you can take another shot. Disable the panel that has the shot with all the junk in it because no one wants to look at that. But at least we now have the data. If there's a lot of junk, but you can remove something from a shelf that is more or less in line with the laser data, so we can hit the walls of the closet, that's what our drafters need. And that's what you want because that will allow the iGUIDE to be processed quickly. And like Munir said, with shower curtains, draw the shower curtain back, take a pano, close the shower curtain, take another pano. More data is always better. You do not want to have to drive an hour or 2 back to a client's house. And if you're not sure how, you can, once you have everything in Stitch, you right click on one of the panos and you just simply click hide in iGUIDE. That's it. And if you get an error that says panos are too close together, just take all of your panos, hide selected scans in iGUIDE, all but 1. Just have 1 visible. Save, export, get it uploaded. Once it's been processed, you can enable every panel that you like, minus ones that are overlapping from one another. So your goal is to get this uploaded as soon as possible. So if you ever run into an error where it says your panels are too close together, disable all but 1, and you can't figure out which one it is that's overlapping with another, just highlight all your scans and hide them. Equally important, if not, well, let's just call it equally important. is you want to have line of sight. So if you're entering a bedroom, make sure that there's a pano outside of that bedroom in the hallway that connects to the pano that you're about to take. Otherwise, you're going to navigate through walls, which doesn't look very enjoyable during the virtual tour. It also allows our drafters to place a room. So if, for example, you take a shot, let's see if I can use one of these examples. Let's say, well, none of these are really going to work, but let's just say I take one shot of a room, but then the next pano's over here. This is a wall. I'm going to navigate through this wall to click on that next pano. Additionally, our drafting team doesn't really know where this pano belongs in the overall property. And you might not even, let's say you shoot 3 or 5 houses in a day, you get back home or to the office, you don't know where to place it. So if you've taken another pano right here, for example, right at the entrance to this other room, that pano will land here and it will show visually with laser data, of course, where that connects, and that will allow you to place it where it belongs, and it will save you a lot of time. So if you're just starting out, I would highly recommend accuracy over speed. Take your time, capture more panos than necessary. You can always scale back the amount of panos you take as you get more familiar with the system, as you become more familiar with the system. And yeah, that's more or less it.
When you're looking at the scan on the iPhone, during scans. Oh, the entire floor plan, he means, I guess. On survey.
Can you
So, like,
rotate
everything?
the back image that's in white? Oh, like rotate the whole thing?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
I think so. It's been a while since I've done a shoot, but
I don't actually. You might have to manually move them, and at that point, I would just wait till you get home or to your office and just do it in Stitch, because in Stitch, you can just select all the scans and just rotate the whole thing at once. Because if you're going to do it in
yes.
survey, it's just one pano at a time.
Yeah,
Survey
surveys is a lot smaller too, because when you're on your phone, it's hard to kind of zoom in and out of it. But if you've rotated the first panel, then and you've continued after like every panel you've done it. I guess also for another, like if you have auto align on, then if you've rotated the first panel after you shot it, the second panel will auto align and snap into place with that feature. So you won't have to keep aligning everything. So I guess a good rule of thumb would be to rotate your first one to look how you want it to, and then go from there. And then you always have Stitch to go back and fix everything.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you'll save yourself a lot of time if you're not doing the alignment in survey. Just create a general flow. So when you get to your property, you get your client's property. Generally speaking, people are going to start off in the foyer, whatever your system is, but just create a pathway so you're not jumping all over the place. You're not going to be on the main floor, some of it, and then go to the basement and only do some of it, and then go to the second floor and only do some of it. Just complete each floor before moving to another floor.
Yep.
That will save you a lot of post-processing time, let's call it.
Yeah, that's why the whole line of sight thing is really important. Right? If everything's connected, it'll align really easily. You'll know where everything is because you'll have somewhere to start from.
Exactly.
And somewhere to move.
Yep. Exactly that. And just to reiterate that point from earlier, if you're just getting started or you are having some troubles and you've been working on this for a while, take your time. It's far more important to be accurate than quick. So your clients will prefer that your iGUIDEs get processed promptly rather than you getting in and out of the house and then having to go back several times. So like Manir said, lots of data coverage, more panos, it's always better. Line of sight, you can disable panos. And if your client is saying, hey, please don't take a scan of this because it's a mess, just let them know you can hide it. The visuals are not going to be used. You just need the laser data. And if they say, I don't want the laser data used either, try and convince them that you should capture it anyways, and that you'll put a note in Stitch. And you can even say, let's just say there's a section, you can say, do not draft, right? Because if for some reason your client decides, you know what, actually, I do want you to go and scan it, Now you've got to arrange to go back, recapture that space, and now you're going to be paying an update fee. So to avoid all of that, always capture all the data on a property, or make it very clear to your client that there are fees involved with you having to come back. That will be up for you to decide, though. That's
Yeah, I guess that's that. This
yeah.
will be the end of this week's Q&A session. It was a good one, I believe.
I think so.
That
Flew by quickly.
because we had a lot of questions in the Q&A, but a lot of our attendees used the chat today.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, we'll encourage it
Yeah,
next time a bit
completely
more.
fine.
I had a bit of tech issues at the beginning, so I appreciate everyone's patience. And Munir, thanks for getting this started.
Yep.
Normally we do this with just one host, but I'm quite enjoying having two. We'll see if we can continue this in the future.
It's much more fun.
Yeah, I think so. It's a lot easier to a little chit chat.
Also, guys, there's a lot of help on our Go iGUIDE website, the training part. There's a lot of help on YouTube. If you search iGUIDE, you'll see a lot of help. We have the master classes are recorded. These Q&A sessions are also recorded, so you can always go back. There are a lot of tools to help you get started with the camera. And also you always have us, our support team. We're always ready to answer any and all of your questions. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, when you're logged into the portal. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I was gonna say, when you're logged into the portal, on the top, there's the support button. And from there, there's the create ticket option. So if you need to reach out to us, create a ticket for any non-emergencies. And whenever you create a ticket, if it's in relation to an existing iGUIDE, please do include the iGUIDE URL so that we can help you promptly. And I will let Munir leave him with his outro, his exit, if you will.
No, thank you for coming to this week's Q&A. We'll have one in another 2 weeks. In the meantime, just create tickets, ask us, give us calls when you have emergencies, and we hope to see you again in the next 2 weeks.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.